Hey guys, my name's Kevin. Welcome to 5 Days of Fingerpicking, the baritone version. In this series, we're going to dive into some different fingerpicking patterns using some easy chord progressions and spending a lot of time playing along together. So if you have a baritone and you've been looking to kind of learn about some different techniques, this series is for you. We're going to check out 5 days of baritone fingerpicking. Get tuned up and let's get started. All right, so let's dive right in. So the first thing you want to keep in mind is your playing position. That will affect everything that happens with your technique. So again, with our playing position, as you have learned in the Baritone Beginner series, which I think you should check that out before you dive into fingerpicking, because that'll cover a lot of the questions that you have today. You want to be in good playing position here. So I like to keep the baritone at about a 45-degree angle with the face slightly open, and then I want my arm to come across it with my palm basically covering the sound hole, my fingertip down to the corner here. So from here, this is where I'm going to start my finger picking technique. So the first thing that you want to do is take your pinky finger and you're going to put that on the body of the uke. So I usually try to place that in a spot where I can still have my hand over the strings. So it might be different depending on your hand size, so find the comfortable spot, but generally you're going to be right below the sound hole here when you do this. So you don't have to really press hard, you just want to make contact with the instrument. Now you're saying, Kevin, why do I need to put my pinky on here? The reason is because with finger picking, you want your hand to stay close to the strings here because you're going to be in contact with them the whole time. It's different than strumming, so your hand wants to stay down close to the body of the instrument. What the pinky does is it keeps you in contact and keeps your hand from lifting off of the strings. So first thing you want to do, pinky down. So the pattern that we will use today to start off is called the Travis pattern. So let me demonstrate the pattern and then I'll take you through it and show you how to do it. So I'm just going to hold no strings here while I'm doing this so we can just solely focus on our finger picking hand. So I've got my pinky down. Now I'm going to keep my hand in this nice kind of relaxed cup shape here, and I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to rest it on the G string on the top of that string. I'm going to have my index finger underneath the B string, and then my middle finger will be underneath the E string. So I basically am kind of grabbing these three strings on the bottom here so that when I'm ready to finger pick, I can just pull or press down on that string. So again, I'm not holding anything here with my fretting hand, and the pattern will be inside strings, outside strings. So I'm going to go thumb on the G string with a down pluck, and then I'm going to pull up with my index finger on the B string, and then I'm going to pluck the top string, which is the D string, and then the bottom string with my middle finger, which is the E string. So nice and slow, I'm going thumb, index, thumb, middle. Now as you're doing this, it's totally okay to watch your hand. So eventually you're going to move your sight back to your fretting hand, but when you're picking up a technique like this, it's really important to kind of just get in tune with what you're doing. So I take my hand here, I got my pinky down, my hand's in a nice relaxed position, and I'm just going to watch myself do this again, and I'm going to say the finger as I do it. So thumb, index, thumb, middle. So try that with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thumb, index, thumb, middle. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. A couple more times. 1 and 2 and. So that's a very slowed down version of the Travis finger picking pattern. So now let's do the exact same thing a little closer to a tempo that you might find in a song. So I'll probably go about this speed here. Now for this first demonstration, we're just going to use a single chord. So I'm going to hold down a G chord, which is just my ring finger on the 3rd fret on the E string. So that'll sound like this. So let's try that same thing again with a little bit more pace. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Let's just keep this going for a minute. Make sure you're smiling. Feel the warmth of the baritone uke. 1 and 2 and counting helps you. 1 and 2 and. A couple more times. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So if you need to spend some more time with the technique, I suggest that you go back, pause the video, try that a few more times. Don't be afraid to go super slow with this. You really want to hone in on the technique. And something I also want to mention here is you don't ever want to pull your hand up like this when you're finger picking. You want everything, if you watch my hand when I go, it's very small movements. So I'm just kind of delicately pressing down with my thumb or pulling down with my thumb, and as I pull my fingers as well, I'm just moving at this knuckle here. So it's not a full finger motion that actually happens when you do this. It's just happening halfway down your finger. So this is what's actually the fulcrum here that's pulling your finger. So as you do that, and that's why it's important to watch your fingers as you're doing this, because you really want to hone in on that technique. Practice this super slow, because as you're developing this foundation, the more you hone on the technique, the better off you're going to be later on when you start speeding things up. So now let's take a look at a couple of simple chord progressions with this finger picking pattern. All right, so now let's apply this finger picking pattern to a short chord progression. So check out the chord progression. We're going to start here with a G chord. So the G chord will just be 3rd fret on the E string. And if you want, you can start by putting your index, middle, and ring finger down across the bottom string on the first 3 frets. The second chord, we're just going to take our ring finger off, and now we're playing a G major 7, which sounds like this. Ooh, so dreamy. Then we take our middle finger off and we're just playing the 1st fret on the E string, and that's a G7 chord. And then finally we're going to remove our index finger and play the strings open with nothing fretted, and that's a G6 chord. So I'm trying to keep this very simple here with our fretting hand to start, so you can really focus on your finger picking hand. If you still need to watch your finger picking hand as you're doing this, I think it's easier just to kind of work with one finger down here. So start really simple with your fretting hand, rather, when you're working on a new technique with your strumming or finger picking hand. So we're going to do the pattern 2 times on each chord. So 1 time through the pattern is just thumb, index, thumb, middle. So that equals 1 time. So you'll do that twice on each one of these chords. So I'll count us in. Get your fretting hand prepared over here. Make sure you're up nice on those fingertips, using your thumb behind the neck to keep good pressure on the strings, and make sure everything's ringing out nice and equal. So here we go, starting with the G chord. Get that pinky down here. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's go back to the G chord again. 4 and G major 7. G7, G6, keep it going, G major 7, G7, G6. All right, last time through, test of endurance here. Down to the G7, last one here on G6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, so now let's add a little more movement to our fretting hand here with this next progression. So this progression, we're going to start on the G chord here. And then we're going to move to an E minor chord, which is just middle finger on the 2nd fret on the D string. From there, we're going to keep that finger down. We're going to add our index finger to the B string here on the 1st fret, which will turn this chord into a C chord. It sounds like this. And then we're going to pivot down here to a D7 chord, keeping our index finger in place, moving the middle finger down 1 string to the G string, 2nd fret, and then placing our ring finger here on the E string on the 2nd fret. So again, we have G, E minor, C, and D7. Now if you notice when I do that progression, you don't see my fingers popping up off of the strings here. I'm keeping everything nice and close to the fretboard. And that's going to help me, especially when I start doing a little bit more, labor-intensive technique over here with my with my strumming finger-picking hand. I want all of the things that are happening here with my fretting hand to be really simplified. So the less movement, the better. You want to keep your focus here on your finger-picking. So let's try this out. We're going to keep that same pace. We're going to do 2 times through the pattern, starting on the G chord. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Then C, D7, back to G, E minor, C. Don't you love how fingerpicking sounds on the baritone? So nice. Back to the G chord. Are you smiling? I hope so. Now the C chord. Small movements here, D7. One more time. Make it your best rep. And C, D7, and then a single strum on G. So did you have fun learning how to finger pick the baritone uke? I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy finger picking on a baritone, and that's just another reason why you might want to get a baritone uke if you play the standard tuning. This is another one to add to the collection. Speaking of adding to the collection, you can check out this Kala baritone at allforuke.com. I have these for sale. You can support the channel by buying Kala ukuleles. I thank you so much for learning today. We're going to be back with day 2 next week for this fingerpicking series, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel, click that alert bell so you know when the videos are coming out. We're releasing a new baritone video every week here, as well as another one in standard tuning. You can get PDFs, worksheets, practice tracks, sign up for private lessons, all kinds of cool stuff over at allforuke.com. So I encourage you to go over there and check that out. I'll see you next week for another baritone fingerpicking video. My name's Kevin. Thank you guys so much for learning with me.